some elements of coordination or joint actions on the border of Ukraine with Poland and Romania and hitting those drones or rockets, it should happen now. We have the legal basis for that on bilateral level. As for today, like Macron, for example, and many others, they are saying like, yes, Europe exists, but we need to fight for it. Europe is not free of charge. Its safety existence is not free of charge, not just in money.
Bonjour, vous regardez l'Ukraine en flammes, une chaîne YouTube en français par l'Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Je m'appelle Tetiana Ogarkova et dans ce projet, on vous raconte comment l'Ukraine résiste face à l'agression russe. Dans cet épisode, nous discuterons des options dont dispose l'Ukraine en dehors de l'OTAN. Si pas l'OTAN, alors comment assurer la sécurité de l'Ukraine? Si vous souhaitez en savoir plus, continuez à regarder cette vidéo et n'oubliez pas à vous abonner à notre chaîne YouTube pour ne pas manquer nos vidéos à venir. Alors que la guerre à grande échelle dure depuis presque 3 ans, l'Ukraine a fait des progrès considérables pour assurer sa sécurité et repousser l'ennemi avec le soutien, bien évidemment, des armements de provenance occidentale. Cependant, il est crucial de réfléchir aux futures garanties de sécurité et à l'OTAN. La présence de troupes de l'OTAN sur le territoire ukrainien est un sujet controversé, revisité à plusieurs reprises ces derniers mois. L'Europe réalise, comprend que sa propre sécurité repose tout aussi bien sur la sécurité ukrainienne. Mais notre premier invité, Valeriy Chaly, cofondateur de l'Ukraine Crisis Media Center et ancien ambassadeur de l'Ukraine aux États-Unis, parlera davantage du rôle crucial de l'appartenance de l'Ukraine à l'OTAN. Écoutons-le.
You mentioned, and I just share this, that we have to become the part of NATO concept, but the NATO concept is changing to the concept of not allowing us go there. In this concept, NATO is placing their troops on the territory of Eastern NATO members. That is, the brigade, German brigade, will be in Lithuania. 4,500 they are planning already now. They started doing that. It will take a few years. Poland wants Americans to place tactical nuclear weapons on their territory. That is political consensus with Poland. Other countries, they are not waiting for artificial intelligence to do something. They are placing conventional troops, tanks, paratroops, etc. on their border. We are not in this concept as for now, but yeah, I have my own opinion in this regard, and I want to impose that on you. So what do you think about the opportunity that Ukraine, without being a NATO member yet, will develop the training programs on its territory more actively, maybe together, like joint participation of NATO representatives, including military?
Valeriy Chaly, le cofondateur de l'Ukraine Crisis Media Center et ancien ambassadeur de l'Ukraine aux États-Unis, souligne ensuite l'urgence d'un système de défense aérien commun avec la Pologne et la Roumanie. Il souligne qu'il existe déjà un cadre juridique au niveau bilatéral pour soutenir une telle coopération. Chaly souligne que les États-Unis ont des accords de défense similaires avec le Japon et avec les pays de l'OTAN. Il se demande pourquoi un accord similaire ne pourrait pas être conclu avec l'Ukraine. Écoutons.
Actually, it's absolutely clear for me also that it will move in this direction. What is unclear for me is why is it so slow in dynamics? Because it's obvious that, for example, joint system of air defense or some elements of coordination or joint actions on the border of Ukraine with Poland and Romania and hitting those drones or rockets, it should happen now. It should be there. I will say one thing. We have the legal basis for that on bilateral level. So today everyone is paying attention to safety agreements. Just find in safety agreements, those that are there now, some extra track. So It says nothing about the conditions for placing the troops, but look at our agreement about defense with Poland, which is still in force. There are even opportunities like how this is happening, that Polish instructors on our territory, how they are working, what is the rights for them. This is the first agreement necessary to give the opportunity in case of anything to participate on the territory of the country, because there are some nuances, even taxes, and it's weird, and the conditions were bad, responsible for crimes, etc., etc. They have it with Korea. Americans have that with Japan for NATO countries. 1 year ago, like literally last year, they agreed for a nuclear component. So it was like the Koreans, they pushed, and the Minister of Defense of the USA had a visit in order to ensure that the USA will use their nuclear power in case of nuclear attack from Northern Korea. So that's the same story, also the neighbor with nuclear weapons. But what is the huge difference in all of it? And that is one question. I don't know whether we will dive deep into it, but because we can talk a lot about that, and there is now a lot of proposals. Like maybe Ukraine needs to think about some analogies. First, I heard the Korean scenario, very good scenario, because we stopped on the 38 parallel, and next, peacefully coexisting. While Korea is developing, Finland again. Now it started because Finns, they said that, yeah, they need to realize their rights. But what? They give everything after the results of Teheran.
Notre deuxième invité, Pavlo Klimkin, ancien ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Ukraine, qui est actuellement chercheur au Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, souligne l'importance de la présence de partenaires occidentaux en Ukraine, même s'il le sait, il avoue que ça ne pourra pas se produire d'ici un an. Klimkin affirme que toute solution de sécurité viable pour l'Ukraine nécessite la présence des troupes internationales, même si elles ne seront peut-être pas les troupes de l'OTAN, mais ce seront sans doute les troupes des pays qui appartiennent à l'OTAN. Cette présence est cruciale pour la sécurité et la stabilité économique de l'Ukraine, car aucun investissement ne sera réalisé en Ukraine sans sécurité assurée. Écoutons ce qu'il a à dire.
Well, I don't know whether it's realistic this year. However, I do think that it will end up with conventional presence of our partners here on our territory. And at the same time, most probably we will achieve agreements of even like political agreements about the fact that nuclear weapons, NATO weapons, etc., won't be placed on our territory under certain conditions. That is, conventional presence, yes. Nuclear presence, no. And such a model, which is even not related to the formal political decision regarding the NATO membership, has to work because it's the only model which actually ensures minimal perception of safety here inside and externally for Ukraine, and is creating a clear safety reality. Any other model, in my opinion, is not working in the conditions when, as for now, making decision about formal membership is postponed, and it is postponed due to the war and due to the fact that in case of some movement towards that, the war might have the new escalation. So I do think that any predictable safety reality without conventional presence and troops and other infrastructure elements in our territory are impossible. I just cannot make any other safety system. And I also see that mentality of our partners, and it's not just Macron, even though French people are discussing that for quite some time on the military level. Also, that mentality is moving towards this. That won't be the NATO presence. It's political, but it will be a presence, well, of certain coalition of those who want to, those who are ready to get involved into the story. But if there will be no safety, then actually the country cannot function. Who's gonna invest into this country? I mean, not just financially, but just to invest from inside and from outside. And if we will have conventional presence, that will be a certain framework, transition framework for the future. And I do think that this framework will be approved, just like it is already being discussed.
Pavlo Klimkin, l'ancien ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Ukraine, évoque diverses options de défense et suggère que les élections européennes pourraient, comme il l'espère, renforcer la position de l'Ukraine parce que les personnalités politiques européennes sont de plus en plus préoccupées par la défense du continent européen. Écoutons.
A lot of options are discussed, and it's not about the training, I mean full presence. Full presence of troops. It doesn't mean that we will need so many systems and brigades, etc., but this has to be a critical level, which will show that this is actually the part of stopping them and part for ensuring safety as certain compromise, and though maybe we don't like this option on our way towards others, in particular NATO, or some bilateral or multilateral guarantees for safety. And now this option is being discussed as well. And actually, I do see that in the Asian space, in spite of the fact that Americans have, with Koreans, of course, Southern Koreans, or with Japanese people, they have agreements that in many ways, in my opinion, are not worse, or maybe in some part are more cool than what is written in Article 5, still they are considering the necessity of presence, conventional presence, which will be bigger, and they are thinking about availability of additional stopping mechanisms. So again, nuclear potential, something that I see as of today, it's a no. Conventional potential, it has to be sustainable. Sustainable decision or sustainable solution is how I see that as of today. If we have some transition period to NATO reality, and I see that mentality in Europe is kind of getting towards it because now Europe cannot allow itself to have some safety fluctuations. I think that Europe will come with some crisis to joint umbrella, and that won't be just nuclear umbrella. But as for now, there is lack of a lot of things, lack of solidarity, political will, etc. But 2 years ago, I remember how we were having negotiations with Germans. I won't call, but other European countries, let us say so, about weapons and any proposals. They were causing some shock. They were not just surprised, but it was real shock. And now they presented the joint plan. Yeah, a lot of ideas will be presented, some in the nearest future, some a bit later on. But I think that many European companies, including on producing weapons and new technologies, they have taken into account our possibilities for the future and the fact that NATO, like it's very hard for them with the consequence of political decisions that was taken into account already in business, who, where, and how, what should be used. And I think that the business will develop very fast. And I think that pushing political reality, which is with the inertia, this determination, I think that this wave, not the tsunami, but the wave which started right now, earlier, but we can see that in the European elections, it can, well, not just harm us, but it can help us. How? Because people who have significant positions among the right ones, they are really disturbed by European identity and defense of Europe as they see it. So this is kind of a stronger Europe? Well, I think that the right, because there are different right and partially Christian Democrats, they do want to lose Europe and they do understand that there is such a chance. That is 10 years ago, everybody was saying, like, yeah, Europe exists, it will always exist, we have some problems, we will figure it out somehow. As for today, like Macron, for example, and many others, they are saying, like, yes, Europe exists, but we need to fight for it. Just like in the well-known political slogan, Europe is not free of charge. Its safety existence is not free of charge, not just in money. And this mentality among the right ones, it's quite strong, I'd say, at least among those I'm talking to, and I'm talking to the Nordics and Italians and Spanish people.
C'était l'épisode de l'Ukraine en flammes, une chaîne YouTube en français par l'Ukraine Crisis Media Center. C'est le dernier épisode dans cette série, mais nous n'allons pas tarder à revenir avec d'autres vidéos, et ceci dès le début de l'année 2025. Dans la description sous cette vidéo, vous trouverez des informations utiles sur la manière dont vous pouvez toujours aider l'Ukraine à faire sa résistance contre le pays agresseur. Si vous trouvez notre travail utile, n'hésitez pas à commenter ou de partager cette vidéo. Restez avec nous et soutenez l'Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!